In 2012, the Ohio Basketball Hall of Fame decided to develop the Ohio Heritage Award, and that award was made to honor a previous recipient for his or her accomplishments outside of the game of basketball in all areas and in the area of Ohio. For those of you who were here last year, you remember that Jerry Lucas was our first recipient. This year, we are excited and very proud to give this award to Wayne Embery. Now, two things have already been said up here today. One, Mr. Burson said about his huge hands. Jeff just said that he feels not very good out in that hallway with all those great big guys. Think how I felt as his roommate. So we are very proud, though, tonight to bring Wayne up here to that for that, and we're going to see a little video of some of his accomplishments, and if you would show that, please.
Wayne Richard Embery was a true pioneer, making a lasting and historic impact on the game of basketball. Drafted in 1958, Embery's NBA playing career spanned 11 seasons. He was a five-time All-Star as a member of the Cincinnati Royals, a part of the 1968 Celtics championship team. And the following season, which would be his last, he was named the first ever Milwaukee Bucks captain. But his most notable accomplishments would come after his playing days were over. In 1971, Embery was hired by the Milwaukee Bucks to serve as their general manager, becoming the first African-American GM in the NBA and in any other major U.S. team sport. After leaving the Bucks, he accepted a similar role with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then in 1994, Embery made history again when he became president and COO of the Cavs, the first African-American to be named NBA team president. He won 2 NBA Executive of the Year awards during his time with the Cavaliers. He helped pave the way for some notable GMs, such as Brooklyn's Billy King, Orlando's Otis Smith, and Detroit's Joe Dumars. In 1999, Embery's contributions to the game were recognized as he was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. Wayne Embery is one of the most influential executives in NBA history and will forever be remembered as a true barrier breaker.
When Wayne came to the Bucks after a player and he was in their front office, what that didn't say that Wayne was very instrumental in bringing Oscar Robertson and Boozer to the Bucks, united them with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and in their third year in the league to an NBA championship. Wayne was very instrumental in that. So his career started there, but that career was just beginning, and from then, it just leaped ahead, and he has been very, very important in the area of not only professional sports, but in the area outside of basketball. As was mentioned, he served 13 years as GM of the Cavs, and during that time, when Wayne went there, the Cavs were really non-contenders, and in his 13 years tenure, they won or were in the playoffs 9 of those 13 years. Wayne also served on the selection committee for the basketball Olympic team. And as I said, in 1999, he was put into the Naismith Memorial National Basketball Hall of Fame. Outside of basketball, Wayne's career is just as impressive. In Boston, the man they called the Wall was Boston's director of recreation. When he went to Milwaukee, he was very instrumental there and started his own business, a very successful business. When he came back to Cleveland, he sat as a member of the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland. He was a member of many corporate and nonprofit organizations, too many for me to talk about tonight. He spent 14 years as a member of Miami's Board of Trustees and served as a chair during that tenure. His book, The Inside Game, with Mary Schmidt Boyer, who was the co-author, gives us a great insight, for those of you who have read it, of the inside workings of the NBA Basketball Association. And on a side note, Mary and her husband are here tonight as guests of Wayne, and Mary, thanks for coming. Thanks for being a part of this. Wayne continues to be a contributor to the Toronto Raptors, as he is an advisor to that organization. And if you leave Columbus and drive west, you have the opportunity to drive on Wayne Embery Way if you go through Springfield on US Route 40. Married to the former Terry Jackson, the Emberys have 3 children and spend their days now in Scottsdale, Arizona, where he moves back and forth to Toronto, obviously, during the basketball season. For those of us who have been lucky to know Wayne as a teammate, as a friend, or as an associate, over these many years, we know this about Wayne Embery. He is a man of great character, uncompromising integrity, great business smarts, honest, fiercely loyal, tremendously driven, proud of his family and his heritage, and a person who has made his life to make people better. So it is with great pride that I join his fellow Miami teammates who are sitting down here in front, the Hall of Fame inductees, this evening's inductees, and the Ohio Basketball Hall of Fame, to introduce to you Wayne Embery as our 2003 Ohio Heritage Award.
Yes, Jimmy, thank you very much. We were roommates at Miami and teammates, of course. And Jimmy takes instructions well. At Miami, I said, Jimmy, if you want to be a really good teammate, you pass me the ball, being the point guard. He takes instructions well, except for this video, because had I seen that before, you would have had to edit some of that out. But early in that video, inside this body is that body you saw early when I was playing. Thank you very much. I want to acknowledge first and congratulate the inductees this year and the previous inductees in years past. And I want to just say again, you heard it before this evening, the gratitude that we owe Doc and Don for starting this institution to preserve the history of basketball in the state of Ohio. Not too long ago in Toronto, we had a little debate after practice with one of our players, John Lucas, he's from Texas, and he was extolling on the fact that all the great basketball players that came out of Texas far surpassed those coming out of Ohio. And we say, whoa, wait a minute. Let's start with current day players, LeBron James from Akron, Ohio. And so from there, let's go to a little bit of history. Let's talk about John Havlicek. Let's talk about Jerry Lucas. And let's talk about Gus Johnson. And he had me as a starting center. And I said, no, I can't beat out Nate Thurman. And I said, we can start on the second team, and yet there's a whole host of others who come out of the state of Ohio. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us be proud of the long history of basketball, and again, be grateful to Doc and Don for starting this to preserve the history of the game of basketball in Ohio. And I stand before you very proud to be part of that history. In my short remarks, I want to pay tribute to the educators and particularly the coaches in this room this evening. And course, our parents and our families, because that's where the foundation begun. You know, we had to have a foundation to build on. And each and every one of us, I think, will agree that it started right at home with our families. My parents instilled discipline, values, and gave great support during my early years and throughout my high school, college career. But let me digress just a second and talk about an experience I just came from in Chicago. The NBA has an annual combine where we bring prospects in to work out, but more important to us is the interviewing process. And that is quite an emotional thing for me, because I see these aspiring young men who have worked throughout their early lives to become professional basketball players, live their dream. And so we bring them in, and part of the process is, of course, interviewing them, just like we go out and interview for a job. And it can be overwhelming, because, as we all know, those of us in this room, ladies and gentlemen, come from diverse backgrounds. And so I find that the most gratifying part of the experience is trying to understand and know these young men's backgrounds. And I can tell you, of the players we interviewed, be proud, Columbus, that Trey Burke was one of the finest young men I think I've interviewed in years, right here from the state of Ohio. Even though he did migrate north. But we'll forgive him for that, because he does represent the state of Ohio. And a couple of the other young men we interviewed were very impressive. Suit and tie, very well spoken. Because, see, and I tell them this, we interview them because we don't just draft basketball players, we draft the whole person. And so we are interested in their backgrounds, and so we ask them about their parents. Just tell us about how you grew up, that sort of thing. So you go from the extreme of a Trey Burke and some of the others to the other extreme, where a young man grew up in poverty. His dad serving time, his older brother's incarcerated. And I said, well, young man, given those circumstances, who has had the greatest impact on your young life? Mr. Embery was my coach. And it's a common theme throughout these interviewing, and a common theme for all of us who have had the great experience of playing the sport that we love, to look back and say, who had the greatest impact or the influence on your life? And if you go around this room, all the athletes here, they're going to say the coach, or in many instances, the teacher. So my remarks, I hope, will pay tribute to the educators in this room and the coaches. Because, see, I will just tell you a little bit about my journey. Those of you who know me know a little of my background. I have my teammates, some of my teammates here at each level, and some of my classmates here at each level. So they know a little of my background. And some of you in this room who've been around a while, almost as long as me, know a little of my background. But for you younger people in the room, let me tell you that I grew up outside of Springfield, Ohio. Didn't go to Springfield schools, Ayers family. I went to Tecumseh High School. You know where that is. And you know that we did, well, you went to North, Randy, so it was Springfield South at the time, or Springfield High School at the time, and you know that little Tecumseh High School did beat them in the district tournament. But I grew up in a township where there wasn't a high school. And so when I came out of the 9th grade, after playing 2 years, I was cut as a 7th grader. I didn't make the team until late in the season, and it was late in the season that a player got hurt. The coach comes and says, Wayne, I've been watching you in intramural, so I want you to come back out for the team. And there was only about 3 or 4 games left in the season. I said, well, okay, coach, thank you. So I'm all excited about finally being asked to play on the team. And I go home and I tell my folks, they're elated. And so I was so elated I didn't do my homework. So I go to school the next day, and English was the last class of the day before we got on the bus to go in town and play, I don't know, school in town. And so the teacher asked for homework, and everybody handed in their homework. Teacher says, Wayne, where's your homework? I said, oh, I didn't do it. Well, you're not going to go with the team. I said, well, let me go get the coach. We'll see about that. So coach comes in the classroom, and Miss Embery, I remember her name because, see, this was a defining moment, young folks in the room. This was a defining moment for me. Miss Embery says to the coach, Wayne didn't do his homework. And the coach says, Wayne, you didn't do your homework? And I said, no, sir. He says, well, you're not going with us. So I didn't go. And so I went my whole 7th grade not playing. And that was a defining moment for me because it taught me this. As I said earlier, we draft the whole person. It taught me that academics was equally as important or more important than whatever I could do playing basketball, football, or any athletics. And so the 8th grade, I said, let me set out to do my homework and set out to be an A student. And I commend those who received the scholarships this evening. Congratulations, and wish you the very best, because you get it, because you got it that academics are important. I finished junior high school, and as I said, there was not a high school in my township, so I chose to go to Tecumseh High School. And let me give you a little background on this. I go to Tecumseh High School, and the first day of school, I looked around and I didn't see anybody look like me. And I was scared to death. And so I came home from school and I told my grandfather, who was in one of our fields farming. I grew up on a farm. And I said, Grandpa, I'm quitting school. I'm going to help you on the farm. And he says, no, sir, you're not going to quit school. You're going to go back to school. He says, why are you quitting school? I said, well, Grandpa, I went to school and I didn't see anybody look like us, and I'm scared. And yes, I did hear some slurs and that. I said, I'm not going back to school. And I said, Grandpa says, yes, you are. So I thought I'd get some support later on when my mom and Dad came home from work. I thought I'd get some support, and I got some great support. It was called a switch. He said, you're going to go back to school. And he says, you're going to prove that you are as good, and maybe even you have to be better in the classroom and on the basketball floor if you're good enough to make the basketball team. Well, I give a lot of credit to my high school coach. His name is Frank Shannon, who was inducted to this Hall of Fame a couple years ago, who embraced me and made me feel comfortable in that environment, and also my classmates who embraced me, made me feel comfortable in that environment. And so we went on, and we had a great 3 years at Tecumseh High School. And from there, I didn't know anything about college. Nobody in my family went to college. And I want to say to you, Bill Ewell, Bockhorn, you guys at the University of Dayton, I grew up listening to your games. And I wanted to go to the University of Dayton. And Tom Blackburn didn't recruit me. And I didn't know and understand at the time why. But later in the year, Frank Shannon says to me, Wayne, Tom Blackburn didn't recruit you because at the time, Bill, you guys played a lot of games in the South. And he says, I didn't want to expose you to that, which might happen to, he didn't want to expose me to that, which might happen to me in the South, for which I appreciate to this day. And I can say that some of the experiences I had, Coach Shannon was there to guide me through it, and through his support and guidance, I developed a lot of character. You know, I recall after practice in Springfield, we stopped at a restaurant to eat, and my teammates all sat there, ordered hamburgers, milkshakes, whatever it was. I sat there, didn't get waited on. And Coach says, are you going to serve him? And the waiter says, no, we don't serve them in here. And Frank Shannon says, what? He said, if you don't serve them in here, then we're all leaving. And in mass, we got up and left. And see, young folks in the room, we're all going to be faced with adversity. But from those experiences, I learned perseverance, and I learned persistence. Because if you quit, you give up, you never reach that goal or reach that dream that you want to live. And so I look back on that, and I'm standing here before you this evening because of the values, the character, and I go off on this when I talk to young people and particularly our players, because in my latter years of my career, I played for the Boston Celtics. And to confirm what I said about the importance of academics and the importance of character, when I joined the Celtics, Red Auerbach says, we win because of intelligence, character, and talent, in that order. And sure enough, as I look back at the experiences I had in high school and the guidance of Frank Shannon, and in college, my college coaches, my college teammates, some are here, and friends who are here, help guide me and support me along the way, and I'm very appreciative. Darrell Hedrick was assistant coach my senior year, and he falls in that same line of the great coaches sitting out in this room, and the coaches who have helped develop the young athletes and develop the Hall of Famers who you are enshrining tonight. And so, again, I congratulate them, but most important, I congratulate the educators and the coaches in this room, and thank you for that which you have done for all of us and the young people coming up. And use the Trey Burks and the LeBron Jameses and all those who you watch on television and or you go see play, use them as role models. And again, intelligence, character, and talent in that order is how you win. And in reality, it's how you succeed in anything that you attempt outside of sports. So I'm saying that to everyone in this room. And with that, I thank you very much.